Let me mute this other one. Can't hear myself. There it is. Alright, anyway, what's going on? Hope you can see me alright. I'm really new to all this and running it on a separate app. Anyway, I got just a couple different topics that I didn't. Sorry, that I didn't have enough information about to really make a video about. However, there was something there that God was placing on my heart to at least share it, because it's stuff that just keeps coming up in my thought process. And one of the things was, I was watching a video by Jacob Israel about reincarnation, and it's interesting stuff just to take a look at. And I went into another live chat. This was probably in January. And as I was just kind of sharing some of the information, a few of the people got kind of angry about it, and they were immediately discounting it and saying that's not how it works. It's a false doctrine, and I don't know. I understand the verse that says it's appointed to every man to die once, and there are spirits out there that will confuse children. We'll get into some of that, but I know that we serve a just God, and the more I've thought about this, I just we live in a blessed community where we have access and a freedom of religion, and I just don't think that a God that is completely just and all loving would damn someone to hell if they weren't given the same opportunity. And it doesn't mean something like someone hears about him one time, someone hears about Jesus but doesn't fully comprehend. For instance, if you lived in a country that has been Buddhist, predominantly Buddhist, and all the Buddhist practices, and you've learned Buddhism your entire life, if someone comes up to you and tells you about Jesus, unless you have a profound experience in that and understand it, you're probably not going to just be like, well, I'm switching, unless you find some, the Father reveals Himself to you in that moment in a specific situation. I don't see it logically that a person would just abandon what they've been taught their entire lives. Excuse me. I also think that this that same line of thinking is kind of what makes Christians here in that situation I was in January get angry about the fact that it could be at least possible. I'm not saying in every case, his ways are not our own. So just if someone didn't necessarily need to be, I don't know that they could, but I think most people get caught up. I guess I could change the picture. Well, that's all right. I wanted to start with a different picture. Sorry, forgetting all this. But I think most people get caught up with this because we've been taught that whenever we die, we're going to spend eternity with the Father. I believe that as well. I'm not discounting that. However, the way people get caught up with it is they look at it from a linear understanding of time. Well, I'm born, I live my life, I die, and then I either spend eternity with the Father. Some people believe eternity in hell, or they burn up, and that they don't exist anymore. And there's, that's another video. But the thing is that if he knows the beginning from the end, I started thinking about what it would be like to be an angel. If time doesn't exist in the angelic realm the same way. And it's really, really confusing for us to comprehend, because I think that it would be pretty amazing, to answer a prayer in 2017 and then say, oh, I had to go back to 1950 to help, it's just a way that time would just work differently. Now, it does say that the angels don't know certain times they don't know when the rapture is, and when no man knows the beginning from the end. But I just think that some of it is it's possible in a way that our limited comprehension of stuff, we would just discount it. And I'm gonna give a few examples, and then get into it. But the where was I going with that? The most important thing is that I really think that the way we think that whenever we die, this was the point I was making. When we die, we're going to spend an eternity with the Father. But if time doesn't exist outside of this realm, could you not spend an eternity with the Father? And then, if He allows it, if it's not some sort of blasphemy or whatever that He would say, yeah, you go back and do something. I need this from you. And it's just a different way of thinking about it. But anyway, I'm going to get into a few examples of things of people that I don't know their spiritual beliefs, but I think it's quite possible that they weren't given the full opportunity and comprehension of salvation. I don't know, that's speculation. I have no proof whatsoever of what these people's spiritual beliefs were and where they were at in either the absence of the walk with the Father or if they were completely Christian. But it just, some of this stuff seemed interesting, pretty interesting to me. So the first one is it's a well-known case of oh man, hang on, I got to do a pop-out chat because I'm reading from my computer and I won't be able to see what y'all are saying. 1 second. Thank y'all for showing up, by the way. I'm sorry, I gotta get used to doing the shout outs and all that. Y'all know it's my first live stream. I appreciate y'all's support. So the first one is of a young man named Lucas. I can't pronounce this kid's last name. It's Relman, and he was a 5-year-old little boy that lived in Ohio. And basically, I'm gonna just read you the article, and we'll go from there. But Lucas Relman is a healthy 5-year-old boy. Still, he's already had a lifetime of experiences. He has even died. At least that's what the claim in a bizarre series of TV interviews. Relman has managed to convince at least a few people that he lived a past life as Pam Robinson, an African-American Chicago woman who died in a fire at the Paxton Hotel in 1993. I'm going to argue the other side for this, by the way, too. I'm not saying this is a fact, but this is interesting stuff. Raulman started weirding out his stay-at-home mom, Erica, at the age of 2, when he started talking about a mystery woman named Pam. Later, she would ask him directly who the heck Pam was. He turned to me and said, "Well, I was," she told Fox News. He said, "Well, I used to be, but I died and went up to heaven. I saw God, and then eventually God pushed me back down, and I was a baby, and you named me Luke." Ruhlman also reportedly said he traveled by train to Chicago. The Cincinnati family didn't know anyone named Pam, and Luke had never been to the Windy City. His mom was baffled. She investigated further and found Pam Robinson, who was one of 19 people who died in a 1993 hotel fire. Robinson's family declined to comment on the story. Excuse me 1 second. The boy's odd ability to remember places he had never been is intriguing, to be sure. If this sounds amazing, it's not that unusual. On the show that revealed this story, Lifetime's Ghost Inside My Child. That's horrible, horrible title. And the last time we checked up on one of the show's reports, it was a mess. In an episode just a few months ago, a Virginia family's reincarnation story drew skepticism almost immediately after it aired. Anyway, that gets into another story. But I'll be leaving links to all these different stories at the after the show's aired. But basically the story, this little kid was what was he? Well, he's 5 years old when they did the interview, but he kept mentioning a lady named Pam, and in the video of the interview, the mom is like, she finally starts asking him who Pam is, and he tells her, who it was, and that he had died in a fire, and he didn't say it, but he made a motion with his hand when he said he died in a fire, like that, and after she did some investigating, she found out that the lady had jumped from a window and passed away. She fell in this fire from a certain story. Now, I do know that the Bible says to be careful and to test every spirit. And I do also believe that it's very possible that there could be familiar spirits trying to manipulate children, especially in families that aren't focused on the Father. I think that's definitely a possibility. But I'm just saying, to discount it as, oh, that's pure evil, that's all that is, we don't know that. And God's ways are not our own. And if, something happened, I see this as, we could never fully comprehend how loving our Father is. Most of my story, even though it's really hard for me to get others to completely grasp just how dark and almost blasphemous I was. I mean, I was completely hateful towards God because I believed a lie that everything was His fault. And if He called me out of that, then if someone got trapped in a situation where, they died, but they weren't dying in a complete state of sin, I don't know. I just think that it may be possible that, there's more to that story, that it doesn't just end there. It just doesn't make sense to me that God made out of pure love would, that the story ends there. I think there may be more to this. Now, I'm not trying to talk against the Bible. Again, it is appointed for every man to die once, but does that mean that soul directly goes to that spiritual death? And I found that interesting. Now here's another one. This one is, tell me I didn't, here it is. This one, interestingly enough, excuse me one moment. I'm sorry, I gotta get back to the chat. I keep having to click off of it and I can't see what y'all are saying. So if I miss you, I'll get back to it in a second. I'm working with my computer, but this one, interestingly enough, is it's right on the border of Syria. There was a 3-year-old there in Golan Heights region near the border of Syria and Israel, and this little boy. It's also a well-known story of how this kid said that he was murdered with an axe. And this kind of ties back into that story of how I'm not sure that if someone was born into a region where Christianity was never really taught, and the majority of the people around a person, teach Hinduism, which consists of the god Shiva and all these other things that we see at CERN and red flags, I watched a video the other day that there's an Indian god where these people are dedicating their daughters to become prostitutes their entire life at the age of like 12 and 13. And it's just a really, really horrible thing that there's red flags all over this. And I don't know. If someone was in that situation and they were never given the opportunity to really, learn about Jesus, and they died, I don't know that the Father's like, well, that's it, I'm done with them. The world just chewed them up and spit them out. And so anyway, here's just something that's interesting, and I also find it interesting that the belief system over there consists of something that's a lot more accepting of the idea of reincarnation. Y'all give me 1 second, please. Would you please shut that door and get out of there?
I'm sorry.
It's all good. Thank you. Anyway. I'll continue with the story. What's going on, White Horse? Hi, Jenny. So a 3-year-old boy in the Golan Heights region near the border of Syria and Israel said he was murdered with an axe in his previous life. He showed village elders where the murderer buried his body, and sure enough, they found a man's skeleton there. He also showed the elders where the murder weapon was found, and upon digging, they did indeed found an axe. That's incorrect English, but I'm reading it right. So, in his book, Children Who Have Lived Before Reincarnation Today, German therapist Trutz Hardo tells this boy's story, along with the other stories of children who seem to remember their past lives with verified accuracy. The boy's story was witnessed by Dr. Eli Lash, who is best known for developing the medical system in Gaza as part of the Israeli government, blah, blah, blah. So, this guy, Dr. Laza, who died in 2009, was telling this story to a guy named Hardo in the 1960s. I'm going to move down. The boy was of the Druze ethnic group, and in his culture, the existence of reincarnation is accepted as fact. His story, nonetheless, had the power to surprise his community. He was born with a long red birthmark on his head. The Druze believe, as some other cultures do, that birthmarks are related to past life deaths. When the boy was old enough to talk, he told his family he had been killed by a blow to the head with an axe. It is customary for elders to take a child at the age of 3 to the home of his previous life if he remembers it. The boy knew the village he was from, so they went there. When they arrived in the village, the boy remembered the name he had in his past life. A village local said the man the boy claimed to be the reincarnation of had gone missing 4 years earlier. Now remember, this little boy's 3, so that timeline kind of makes sense. His friends and family thought he may have strayed into hostile territory nearby, as sometimes happens. The boy also remembered the full name of his killer. When he confronted this man, the alleged killer's face turned white, Lash told Hardo. But he did not admit to the murder. The boy then said he could take the elders to where the body was buried. In the very spot, they found a man's skeleton with a wound to the head that corresponded to the boy's birthmark. They also found the axe, the murder weapon. And then later on, faced with the evidence, the guy, he ended up confessing to the murder. And I find that interesting. I don't know. It's just one of those things, you know. I don't really have a point or an answer to all of this. Like I said, there's some other topics that we're going to get into, including the picture that y'all are looking at. But I also find in my earlier studies, when I was watching some of Rob Skiba's earlier work, the Archon Invasion, Babylon Rising. It's a 4-part series with like 2 hours apiece, but it's packed with information. And in it he was talking about, and this is well known. He was just kind of pulling it from other studies. But when we went to Iraq, I want to say like 2 days before that, they announced that they found the body of Gilgamesh, and that it was in an immaculate state of preservation. And some of the things that were stolen from the National Museum in Iraq of the I think it's either ancient Babylonian or ancient Syrian artifacts. It was like 2,000 artifacts that had to do with like temple resurrection. It had to do with taking a soul and putting it into another body and bringing it back to life. And I see those things as the enemy trying to copy something, you know. I don't have all the answers as to, you know, all this different stuff, all these different situations where someone died and then there's a little kid that gives, details of a name of a dog, and there's a ton of different stories out there. Like they go to the house, they know the family, they tell them, I remember when this picture was taken right here. We were doing this on this day, and it's overwhelming evidence of memories that these kids, information they just shouldn't have. But I know that the enemy is a copycat, and if you all remember, just a few years back, there was a report of whenever they were digging in the tomb, and they went down and found what is that? The tomb of Osiris. I'm trying to think. It was surrounded by water. There was a coffin with the top of the tomb removed, and there was a body in it. But one of the parts of that story that's not as reported on was that the guy that originally found the tomb started chiseling all the markings off of the wall. Like he went down there and understood it. But I'm speculating, but for some reason, it made the person that first fell upon this resurrection chamber start ripping all the markings off the wall, as if they were clear communications. Maybe they were directions. Again, I'm speculating because I don't know that person, but something made that person either want to remove the information so no one else would have it, or and keep it for himself, or he was trying to remove the information so no one would be able to do a bad thing. I do find it interesting, how much Egyptian culture and markings and stuff are in this sort of antichrist spirit of today. And whenever Iraq announced that they had found the body of Gilgamesh, like we invaded. I can't remember if it was the very next day, but it was a short time after that. Like we were trying to get to that museum, and if you look up that story, like the museum was unlocked from the inside. Nobody had to break in to get to these specific artifacts that had to do with resurrection. And I really think that people that just discount all the magic and stuff like that, for people to say that these things are impossible, this or that, I don't think in that situation that's something completely separate from if reincarnation is possible. The only point that I was getting at with the reincarnation thing, again, one, the Bible does say test every spirit. So yes, a familiar spirit, as I said, could be manipulating a child to believe something, or give them these memories, these dreams, to confuse them. That is a possibility. I don't know, but I also think that we serve a loving God, and if someone wasn't given the chance to fulfill whatever purpose God meant for them, which is to serve Him, if they didn't understand it, there's a million different variables for reasons why. I just know that I don't think that we're capable of fully comprehending the love of our Father, and if something were to disrupt that, or intervene with it, and not giving that person a fair chance to completely reject it, I just don't think that God would forever damn them. I find it odd when the thing that really made me want to include this in a video or in this live stream was that whenever I started getting when I was having that conversation in the live stream, and these people were getting mad, they were just, I don't know, it seemed like something. Again, it's not one of those things that has any bearing on your salvation. I don't think that I'll ever have the answer for it, because I don't particularly need it. It's nothing that's going to interrupt my relationship with Jesus, and I don't really dwell on it. But sometimes when I think about fun topics, it pops back up, and I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like the purpose of most of my videos is to look at different situations spiritually and why they are. And on that particular situation where someone was getting like literally angry, like they were upset, and it took me a minute to realize that I had actually made them that mad. It just, the more I've looked into it, as far as like thinking back to that one situation, it just made me think, that's a part of this this paradigm that we've been taught our whole lives. The first thing is to obviously go to the Bible, go to the Spirit, and ask God for guidance with some of this stuff whenever we're testing it. Is it something that completely goes against the teachings of Jesus? And I don't have, people will bring up, well, like I said, it's appointed to every man to die once. And if you take that, by itself, you could quickly say, well, that discounts it right there. I don't know. I'll have to look into that, a little bit more and go back to the Greek and Hebrew to really read into it and take it into context. But I'm just saying, if we serve an all-loving God and someone wasn't given the proper opportunity to fulfill their purpose, then I don't think that God didn't give up on me when I was spitting in his face. So I don't see, there's just something there that's beyond my understanding. But anyway, there was another thing that I'm gonna kind of switch topics here. Let's go with the picture. Like I said, I'm gonna include a bunch of links in the description after this is over with. But can anybody guess where? Hang on, excuse me. Can anybody guess where this picture was taken at? I'd like a little bit of feedback from y'all, as far as if anybody can guess, anywhere close to where this picture was. Let me see. Yeah, here's another one. Because I found this just shocking when I give you the answer. Is everybody still there? Y'all there? I don't want to give too much dead air. Anyway, this plush little land right here, this beautiful scenery is Yeah. I know we're all on YouTube. It is Israel, and I saw this on someone else's channel, and I decided to take a screenshot of it because I've never been over there, but everything about Israel that I've ever seen, it's been a pretty dry, desert land, and it just kind of goes along with the whole New Earth thing. I don't, there are things. Excuse me. There are things changing around us, and some of them are really scary. But this, I was like, wow. I've never my entire life seen a picture of Israel that's just booming, or blooming like almost like it is here in Louisiana. It's so green there. I've never seen a picture of that. Yes, sir. That's where I got the video from. Was Round Saturn's Eye. Yeah, that's exactly where I screenshotted these from. But I mean, it looks beautiful there. It's so plush and looks like a perfect place to grow a vineyard. So I found that interesting. Anyway, the last thing that I had, I wasn't sure how far this was going. Excuse me for a second. I gotta keep checking my battery because everything wanted to start not working right on me before I decided to do this live stream. But I wanted to talk about seeing into other dimensions. Now, again, this isn't going to be a conversation about looking into another dimension the way that we've been taught to think, like looking through a portal and seeing inside of a I'll just tell you what I'm talking about. So I started going down this little rabbit hole whenever I saw a video by Rain on the Plains, and she was talking about the movie. I've just lost the time. I should have wrote it down, but I figured Heavy Metal, and it's a cartoon. It's a very adult cartoon, but she was saying how she was really just showing some residual about people walking up on the Statue of Liberty's torch, and something just told me, I was like, I started praying about it, and that because I knew it was kind of an adult movie, and sometimes it's like I don't know, I felt like something was pulling me towards it, but I had to check and make sure spiritually. He's like, no, go ahead. And so basically, this whole movie is about this green glob, this green energy, as you see in the photograph, and it's moving from world to world. It's moving across time and space, all these different dimensions. It comes into our world, and it goes back to World War II, and it goes all over the place, and it's basically trying to absorb this energy from these people and turn them evil. Like it turns them, in some cases, into the Walking Dead. And the reason I screenshotted this, you'll have the answer. Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. Was there's I don't know. I found it really odd that they chose to use the ancient Phoenician headdress for this little guy right here. I didn't think that was a coincidence, and and I really found it interesting, the whole connection to Elon Musk and the car and space, and we would say life imitating art, but I've noticed time and time again, um, throughout my life that it, I've been in all these situations where I keep being taught to think cause and effect, and that's the reason things are so messed up. That this happened, but when I started looking at them in a spiritual sense, it was almost like the I don't know what I'm trying. I was just gonna say effect and cause, but it was like everything was reversed. It was flipped backwards. So in that, what I'm saying about that is, it's not that Elon Musk was just a fan of heavy metal so much that he designed a car after it and then decided to put it in space. And that in this whole movie, the plot line is this evil energy going around and consuming all these different worlds. And this happens to look like an ancient, time, and this guy is wearing Phoenician headdress. I also, um, I just found a similarity whenever I was looking at these different cartoons and all the different things that they're wearing on their head. Is that I checked into that guy Roger from Mud Fossil, and I don't agree with everything that the guy says, but I will say that he's not just completely talking crazy. Like, he has stuff that supports his theory, from what I can tell. It makes sense. He's not just pulling this out of thin air. And many of those rocks, like there's one video where he shows that the head of this serpent, it looks like a serpent person, and it's got a stream of blood coming out the back of it. Now this is a big rock, but you can tell where the blood would have, basically, after an injury, been coagulated and oozed out, and then however this thing turned into a rock. But they're all wearing these headdresses, like these people that you're seeing, like the two guys in the middle and the ancient Phoenician one. I found that really, really interesting. And also that the movie, that was the other thing I was going to go over. This whole movie seems to be drawn by the same people that, if it's not the same people, it was modeled after, or someone like the style of the people that made the Illuminati card game, or vice versa. It seems to be very close. Maybe that's a stretch. I don't know. It's just, as I was watching this movie and I look at everything, looking at everything spiritually, maybe the people that made the movie had nothing to do with the people that made the game. However, if we are always inspired, spiritually, from one side or the other, I just saw a similarity there. I don't know what that means. It seemed interesting to me that this guy looked very similar to. He didn't look like Saddam Hussein, but the style of how it's drawn looks similar to me. Very, very close. I had other examples. That's not the best, but it just seemed kind of close, especially in the beginning of the movie. Especially like what Rain on the Plains was showing as the residual for the people walking up in the Statue of Liberty. This particular one right here, Looks really close to how the whole thing was drawn, but I don't know. Okay, so the other thing, and as I'm watching this movie, I'm jumping into a whole rabbit hole here as I'm watching this movie and trying to look at it spiritually, but there's this other guy called his name's Roger in Kansas, and no, yes, Roger in KC, Kansas City, and basically what he does, this is also somebody that I don't completely agree with on everything, but what he does is he takes video, like photos from Google Earth, and he does something with the photo, and it seems like these beings sort of pop out of nowhere. Like basically you're looking at a photo of a forest like this. This isn't from his channel. This is from a lady named Heather Thunderhawk. I'm new to her. I found it while I was studying this, and I'll leave a link for her video of this. But basically what he'll do is he'll take the photo and he'll either lighten it or darken it, and you just see these images of these beings like standing up, and they all happen to have faces and shoulders, and some of them are different, at different heights and different shapes. Some of them are real plump, but I've taken pictures before and then seen stuff just in the middle of it, and I found it interesting. And this young lady has done the same thing. Now that guy Roger in Kansas City, again, it's another rabbit hole. No bearing on your salvation. Sometimes when you just need, fun stuff that's not quite so dark and all this doom and gloom, it's just interesting to look at. Uh, he's got a whole bunch of different theories on it, but you can clearly see these little guys just out of nowhere, and okay, then I've already mentioned that. I'm sorry, I'm going back. This is a video to a lady named Stella Lansing, and she was pretty well known. There's a documentary done about her. I'm not even sure that she's still alive, but I believe this was in the 1970s. They did a special on her because any camera she picked up, she started with a 8mm camera. She started getting these things inside the picture. Now a lot of them looked like a clock. It was like just lines, and then other things were like I said, I'll leave a link to it. There's a chick standing there, or a guy standing there. Yeah, it's a lady just walking, and then you can see these arms and legs behind her. But the arms and legs are so tall, like there should be a body towering over this lady. And so people started investigating this and saying it could be a hole in the camera, letting light through, all this and that. Oh, excuse me. So they start giving her different cameras, little Polaroids, and then what's the little quick ones you buy at the store. And it didn't matter which camera she used, she was still getting the same results. It seemed as if there's one particular one, there's 4 guys standing there, and you can just see the way that it's that it bleeds onto the film, that they're not actually standing there, like it's looking into another place. And I just found that fascinating. And again, looking at all this stuff, from a spiritual nature, I do think that we've seen enough changes, whether it is CERN or whether, we could speculate all day, and I'm sure there's a ton of different reasons why this stuff's going on. But for instance, I do have a distinct memory of New England being a state. I know where it was at. I remember vaguely what it looked like. I don't remember the capital, but and I'm not a 52 stater. Like I've told people before that I remember studying for tests, for different places, and it seemed like that was more correct. But I'm generally like, I'm with the 50 states. I used to like laugh at the presidents when they would say in all 52 states. But I also have a memory, and it's not like me misremembering. I have a distinct memory of New England being a state. I was surprised when I looked at the map, and I'm like, it's gone. It's not there anymore. Maine didn't used to touch New York from what I remember, but I've never been up there, and so the point that I'm making with all that is I think that, we move around all the time. That being said, I don't necessarily think whatever some of these photos that she's capturing into these other realms, like there could be a veil there for another world that's beyond us. Now there is that evil world that veil is put there for our protection, but maybe there are other worlds, right next to us where it's just completely separate from us. I do not believe that there's another me in another world. I believe that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. So if that was true, then there could be people in another place, and if it's not where God wants you at that time, but all these shifts seem to, like, people notice pains in their body. I've noticed them in certain places and different changes, and it just seems like that could be possible. I'm only trying to get people to think outside of the finite. Well, that's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. And if you keep that, that framework of mind, then I really think that what is actually possible can be manipulated around your stern stance on, uh, 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure that we all believed that that continents couldn't shift, or that it took millions of years for it to do so. And so I just think of that, I don't know. I'm just trying to stimulate, the minds of people. And this is just stuff that I think about. Let me see. I think I had one other picture. Oh man, I meant to go over that in the beginning. I did like I said, this is all random. And I'm pretty close to the end, but I did a photo shoot about a year ago. I was really into tattoos, and I've got quite a few, obviously, but this was over a year. Anyway, this is like 2016, so I was really living for self still, and this is in downtown Hammond, Louisiana, where I live, and this right here is the building. It was a buddy of mine that what's up, Didge? That he was a mason, and he wanted to do the photo shoot in downtown Hammond, right across from this. There was like a construction section, some rough buildings that were being redone, and so we went up there and we ate at the lodge, and then we went and did the photo shoot, and then went back for coffee and all that, and I kind of knew about the Masons, but I knew this guy since grade school, and I'm not particularly saying anything about this person. It's not for me to judge him. I don't know anything about it. There was a time there where I was going and having dinner with them because I wanted to know more about the organization. But truth be told, this was during the time. Hi, Fizzy. This is during the time that I wasn't searching for God, and it was still a pretty rough time in my life. I think I was just searching for a solution, and so anyway, I went up there for this photo shoot, and nothing particular happened. They treated me nice, they fed me food and stuff, and the inside of this place was shaped really weird. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than you would walk on. Basically, the entrance was down the corner of this building. So where that guy is standing at, it was down the way. If you walk past this little studio right here, and then there's a staircase that led up into there. But the strange thing about the building is that the way that these rooms were shaped, it just seemed like I could tell, and I wasn't even in a state of me like feeling eerie or anything sinister, but I could just tell the way these rooms were shaped. There was square footage missing, and the oddity of how they were placed and everything. It just seemed like it would be very easy, the way that each individual rooms were shaped, with the bathroom and then the kitchen and then the actual hall that they do their little meetings and everything in, that it would be very, very easy to hide another room. That's another speculation, but that wasn't even me like being into some conspiracy thing. I was just like, there's something odd about the way all these rooms are put together. And there was an office and all this other stuff. But, knowing what we know now, I went back and I was looking at this place, and we hear all these different stories. I'm not saying anything about the particular people here, but it really did alarm me. And this stuff has been there forever. What's below it right there, this is a little girl's dance studio. And I'm not going to speculate and say anything about those people. They treated me very nicely. But I do find it it's something that kind of, it presses on my heart, like, and that's been there forever. I don't know anything about the studio. I don't know a lot, much of the Masons that were there, but it was something that all this stuff keeps coming out in the news, and all these, there just seems to be some connection to Satanism, at least with Masonry as a whole. Maybe not the ones on the bottom, but it really kind of freaked me out. I don't know how else to say it than that. But as far as I've seen, there isn't anything, bad going on there. I don't know. It's just one of those things that kind of presses on my heart. But hopefully, there is, all that's just coincidence. But yeah, I think I ran through all the stuff I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I'm out of stuff to talk about. I guess that's pretty much my video. Yeah, I mean, I studied him too a little bit, Jenny. Just simply wanting to learn, and them saying that. I mean, outwardly it seemed like a good organization. At first, with the little bit that I learned about it, they always fed dinner, and it seemed like it wasn't really fellowship, but it was like, I don't know, coming from a place where, you grow older, and then all your high school friends kind of separate, and you just don't have a gathering. And I grew up in a big Italian family, and all that just kind of disappeared. And so just looking to belong somewhere, it seemed like a nice place. But you don't really know a whole lot about the whole setup when inquiring about their organization. They just kind of like tell you got to study some words. That's how I was told. Like, well, there's a book, and then you got to study some words, and then you learn these different things, and you recite them, and then you move up a level. That's how it was explained to me. So it's very, very vague. I don't know any much about it still to this day, and I don't really care anymore. There was a while that I focused on all that, and I was like, well, maybe if I could, get in there and learn more about it. But this is one of them things that, like, if God wants me to fight a battle, he'll put me there. And given a lot of this stuff that I've shared with all of you, I'm pretty sure that the direction that at least a portion of my life will go in, because of all the knowledge that I've gained from the demonic realm. Like, God's not just going to be like, okay, that was a time in your life, you learned from it, now move on and go to stocks and bonds or something like that. Like he's going to use, the stuff that I've learned from that later on. But as for the only point that I'm making is that in that whole realm, that whole scheme of things, and me wanting to go out and put a dent in something that God didn't call me to do, is it's me trying to force my own will upon God, really. So yeah. Thank you. That's funny. You're special force ops now. I hope so. I hope I can put a major dent in that dark realm. But they've seemed to kind of back off after whatever they were trying to do didn't work, and notice that it just drew me closer to Him. I really think, I mean, we know these things attack whenever you're at your weakest, and there was a portion there where they had to get comfortable with knowing that I wasn't going to call upon God. before they would attack. Like that, there was a long stretch of me doing whatever I wanted to do, and me saying horrible things about God and saying, almost mocking Jesus in front of other people, and them being a witness to that before these spirits said, "Okay, we can attack now, because that's the last thing that he's going to call on, and he'll be rendered completely helpless." And luckily enough, it wasn't a real hatred. It was just an anger and a frustration at my life, and that I wasn't mad at God, like I said. And that feeling that I got whenever some of those things started to manifest, and you can literally feel the presence of pure evil, it will scare you so much. You like a child in the eyes of that evil. Like it's just this. It's a horrible feeling that kind of like the whole what was that photo used to say about the foxhole salvation. Like it was. It was a situation where basically I turned real quick whenever I saw the manifestation of some of that evil. And it's really hard to put into words, really, because it's not always a sight thing. You don't. Some people do, but a lot of times it's just a sound or a feeling or a physical feeling. Like I said, being shoved in, by nothing. But yeah, thank God that I did. I mean, he allowed me to go through all that to see what was really a part of that realm, so that and I wasn't like actively seeking out, like I wasn't having seances and doing like that, like evil things. I was just living for myself and not seeking the Father, and rejecting him at any chance he would be brought up. But that's all that it takes for these things to attach themselves to you, and then later attack. But anyway, yeah, I'm kind of out of stuff. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to talk about? There's such a delay on this. I'm trying to keep the air from going dead, but I'm watching myself talk from like 30 seconds ago. I don't know. I think my mom just pulled out too, and I asked her to come in here. I know Michael was the name of a friend of hers that passed away. My middle name is Michael. And I don't know why they wanted to name me Landin. I'm really uncertain. I know Michael Landin was real popular in the 80s when I was born. But I wasn't named after him. I'm trying to remember. I'm drawing a blank for it. It's kind of strange. I know they told me before, because there wasn't like another thing to pick from after that. All right. Oh, thank you for stopping by, and appreciate it. Thank you for your support, Jenny. I'm trying to remember now. Oh well, I can't. I really, yeah. I know. Yeah, my middle name. I wasn't necessarily named after that person. I don't know much about him, but I know that my mom had a special friend of hers named Michael that passed away, and I think that had a lot to do with it. Though I'm pretty sure she was gonna name me Michael already. I'm drawing a complete blank, because I know there's a reason they spelled my name with an I instead of an O as well. But I can't remember any of it. But yeah. Well, anyway, I don't want to keep dead air going and everything. I do appreciate all y'all for coming and giving me support and allowing me to just kind of roll through that kind of jumbled stuff. It wasn't really a message, just stuff I was thinking about. But anyway, I wanted to end on a good, happy note, and and save this video for last. But I thank y'all for coming by. So I appreciate it, and y'all have a good one.
Hey. Oh my goodness. That's what I call love. So, you want to eat the rest of this, or, you just go ahead and tear that up, buddy. Nom nom nom. Is it good? Is it good? Is it good? Hey, hey, hey. Happy ending.